From the Watergate building in Washington, this is Hotline TV. Now, here's Hotline editor, John Mercurio.
Welcome to Hotline TV, everybody. I'm John Mercurio.
And I'm Tim Sod.
Today on Hotline TV, Mitt Romney is on the hunt. We look into the future, and Lou Dobbs crosses over. But first, the big story of the week, Fred Thompson is officially testing waters for a 2008 presidential campaign. Tim Sod here to talk about this with us. What kind of impact will Thompson's entry have on the rest of the Republican field who's been swimming in the water so long that their fingers look like shriveled raisins?
that might be a natural for John McCain. So,
but anyway, no, sort of, I mean, look, how long does Thompson have with a Republican base that is so nervous and so sort of looking for a winner? How long does he have to impress them before they sort of turn to Newt Gingrich or turn to Chuck Hagel or to anybody else who might be out there?
He has a little bit of time. He gets in, July 4th is the date everyone's saying, whether it is then or around then.
Maybe around then. They said they're pushing back on that. But anyway.
Yeah. It could be the first couple debates after that, his first couple big speeches that he's going to give on big issues. I think the voters will give him some time to make his case, and I think I definitely think they'll be open to his running, and I don't think that they're going to cut him off after the first bad performance or whatever. But he's not going to have an indefinite amount of time. Newt's going to possibly announce in September whether he's going to run or not. So maybe September is the time where, if Thompson hasn't caught on, Gingrich will slide right in.
All right, a lot of talk about who Thompson affects in this race. A lot of people thinking he hurts McCain the most and he benefits Giuliani because Giuliani's the only real moderate. Thompson presumably is going to pretty much run to the right, to the conservative base. But to some extent, Giuliani and Fred Thompson, are incredibly similar in their sort of post-partisan, above politics image. They both pretend to be, they're both running as sort of great communicators, leaders in a way that nobody else in the field has tried to be. Who does he affect, do you think, the most in the race?
Absolutely, Giuliani, because he is the front runner, but because they do share the sort of strong leader qualities, blunt speaking, straightforward, but I also think it hurts the other two front runners as well. With McCain being they're sharing sort of a maverick type of identity. They also share sort of similar voting records in the Senate,
right.
And also with Romney, where both fighting over social conservatives.
Right.
So, but I also think that it will hurt Giuliani more because his support tends to be more soft.
Right.
I think that Thompson's support at first will be soft as well, but I think at the beginning he peels away a lot of those Southern conservatives that had supported Giuliani because he is strong on defense, strong on terrorism, things like that. And I think he peel away them for the social conservative issue.
You mentioned the debates. Obviously, there's a Republican debate sponsored by CNN up in New Hampshire on Tuesday. There is some talk that organizers are allowing for the possibility that Fred Thompson could join the debate. Of course, they want to do that because they want to boost their ratings.
Oh, sure.
There's no reason for them not to. But A, will he, and B, should he?
He probably won't, and he probably shouldn't.
Those were very Biden-esque answers. Good. Thank you for that.
Not really. I don't think he will because he obviously won't because he's not going to name he'll name his committee by then, but there are other requirements that he won't meet to get in by Tuesday.
Requirements like having a position on Iraq, having a position on the withdrawal, having a position on
those
abortion
are personal.
that he can articulate in 10 seconds.
Yes. But also he shouldn't because he's getting such great press this week. He's getting the only press this week. It's such a sort of a dead news cycle that he's getting the only press. I don't know why he'd go in there and ruin it, or potentially.
It's sort of like what Gingrich said, which was that, look, if I run, I'm not going to participate in these Mickey Mouse debates with 10 other people standing on a stage giving 20 or 15-second answers. Almost automatically, I totally agree with you, almost automatically by getting into the race, Thompson is sort of lowering himself, and by putting himself in a debate just 24 hours after announcing his exploratory committee, he would, I think, watch himself sort of dive into the field
where he's the equal way with Ron Paul and those other guys.
Ouch! Yeah. Now that hurt.
Oh well, yes.
All right, well, thank you very much for the insight, Tim Saad. We'll see you
Thank-
next time on Hotline TV.
Thank you, John.
Okay, with us now is Hotline staff writer Shira Tuplitz. Shira, thank you so much for joining us on Hotline TV.
Thank you for having me, John.
All right, in his appeals to conservative voters, Mitt Romney has made John McCain's immigration stance one of his favorite recent targets, other than France, which
Right,
is also one of his big
right.
targets. All right, is this strategy paying off for him right now?
Well, if it is paying off for him, the only place it's not going to pay off is Florida. A lot of stories came out this week how it's not going well for him there. In the past, Jeb Bush has really been pushing his aides there, so he has a lot of help there. But I mean, the Florida media has really caught on to the fact that he's attacking McCain on this, and he doesn't really have a very comprehensive plan, if you'd call it a plan at all, to back it up.
Right, you had Jeb Bush and Ken Mehlman, the former RNC
Right.
chair, come out this week in a Wall Street Journal editorial
Exactly.
and say, look, if anybody who's opposed to this bill is risking the future of the Republican Party, a la Pete Wilson from California with Prop 187. And you're right, the Bush family, other than George W., have really sort of been quietly coalescing behind
Yeah.
Romney. Is immigration, and that in a Republican primary can be a very, very good
Huge,
thing
yeah.
in some important states, but is the immigration issue going to end that sort of love affair, that quiet little love affair that's been taking place?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if the immigration bill in the Senate in its final form, if it got a couple changes in it, if Romney could come behind it, because he hasn't said yet that he would veto the bill. He says he doesn't support it in its current form, which means I don't know what kind of changes you could do to this bill to make conservative Republican voters love it. But if that did happen, maybe you could get behind it, and then you'd see more of a happy union and reunion of sorts. I think, in a way, because Giuliani is doing so well in Florida, Giuliani, who also doesn't have a plan out, by the way, I don't want to say he's ceding some ground here, but for now he might just sort of be letting Giuliani ride a bit of a wave. I don't know if he's trying that hard even.
A lot of the press out over the past couple of days on Romney and immigration has been this sort of skeptical, has had this sort of skeptical tone about his decision and about sort of
Right.
the way that he came about deciding to oppose this immigration bill. Is the flip-flop rap against Romney just sort of weaving its way into this debate too, where people don't believe that they don't actually agree, or they don't believe that the position he arrives at are sincere at this point. They just believe them to be politically calculated. I mean, does he face sort of an additional challenge that other Republican candidates don't because of his frequent changes on positions?
Well, I think it's certainly an ironic challenge because out of all the candidates, he has fewer years in office than McCain and Giuliani. So usually the flip-flop charge.
In '94.
Did, but that's one campaign. Like Giuliani, office for many, many years. John McCain in office for forever.
Right.
So I think it's certainly an ironic rap that he gets for being a flip-flopper, but it's certainly a rap. And except for the reporters who really, really know him well, like Scott Hellman and Glenn Johnson,
And those
reporters
are the ones who are writing about how he's been changing opinions.
Well, all these reporters in small town Iowa and and all over South Carolina, those are the ones who really pick up on those themes more and keep calling them on in the last half of the story. So
Interesting. All right. Well, Shira, thank you so much for sharing and coming on Hotline.
Thank you for having me, John.
Surely Rudy understands Wall Street, so maybe he can explain these figures to us. Joining us now is our poll writer, Patrick Ottenhoff. Patrick, all right, you noticed that on the two major political futures markets, the Iowa electronic market and InTrade, investors, they're readjusting their expectations for the 2008 campaign. All right, what are we seeing and what does it mean and why do we care?
Well, John, what we're seeing on these two markets where investors actually trade real money.
Yeah, so this is real money we're talking about, right?
Exactly. We're not just talking about, we're talking about speculation. You invest in the candidate you think is going to win. What we're seeing is investors are buying more Fred Thompson shares, are doubling their money to Fred Thompson. He's gone from $15 last month to $26 today.
So he's almost doubled. Okay.
Right, exactly. Meanwhile, what you've got is investors are absolutely abandoning Rudy Giuliani. He's gone from $32 a share in mid-April to $25 a share today.
So basically, their stocks are rising and falling, and we're sort of watching how.
Exactly.
Why are these? Why are they sort of just buying into the Fred Thompson hype because he happens to also be getting into the race and they're excited about the potential? Or?
Well, it sure looks like that. I mean, what these stocks really, they're predictions. People are speculating on what it's going to be, who's going to win the nomination. So
Okay.
if they expect Fred Thompson to win the nomination, they're going to invest now so that they can sell it higher a year from now.
Do these sort of stocks tend to be realistic or sort of accurate predictors of what the outcome of the race will be?
In most cases, they do. What we saw in 2004 was the day of the election.
Yeah.
The investors were speculating that Kerry was going to win the election, so he was trading at almost $75 a share.
Yeah.
You saw those exit polls. Obviously, he lost. So it turned out to not be such a great buy, but more often than not, they're some of the best predictors of who's going to win, much better than polls.
And is there an ideological bent to sort of who they support, who they like?
They don't look at red or blue. They just look at green.
Mm-hmm.
These are folks who want to make money. They don't care if it's a Republican, if it's a Democrat. They just want to make cash.
Where on the Democratic side? Do we have any numbers on that? Or?
Yeah, Hillary's expected. She is currently trading at over $50 a share, which means folks think that there's a 52% chance that she will get the nomination. And after her is Barack Obama, was trading at $28 a share.
And Dennis Kucinich, penny stocks?
Yeah, you know, he might be the bargain basement good value.
Nice.
Know?
Yeah, exactly.
He might be a good person to buy into. But one interesting thing on the Democratic side, John Edwards is only trading at $8 a share.
Interesting.
So they think John Edwards has an 8% chance of winning.
And again, wait, is this in Iowa or is this on Wall Street?
No, this is actually the who they think is going to win the nomination.
Okay.
So if you look at Iowa, the features are actually a little bit different. I don't have them in front of me right now, but this is who's going to win the nomination.
Fascinating. All right, good stuff. Thank you very much, Patrick Ottenhoff, and his debut performance on Hotline TV. Let's give him a play. Let's give him a hand.
All right, thanks a lot, John.
Okay, and finally today, Hotline staff writer Catherine Lear has been following the 24-hour news cable networks and other television news this week, and she's here to talk about the meat and bones of their reporting. That's right. It's the return of the popular Hotline TV. Which TV blowhard shouted this? All right, you know how the game is played. Catherine, let's play it.
First up, I'm not anti-whale, but I have never seen the appeal of a whale over, say, a golden retriever or a cocker spaniel. I never got the whale fever.
Ouch. I don't empathize or relate to this person whatsoever. I'm totally with the whale fever thing, but I think it was Gary Bauer.
Close. Tucker
Yeah.
Carlson.
Very close.
Tucker
Very close. They
Carlson.
both wear bow ties extremely well. All right, move on.
All right, moving on. He thinks he looks like a circus dog, and so he just clicked with him.
Well, that sounds like Tucker Carlson, who's more of a dog person, right?
Then whale.
Then whale person.
Obviously.
So is that Tucker again?
No. This is actually John McCain's wife, Cindy, talking about, I believe they have 6 or 7 pets, and this is John's favorite pet, the dog Coco.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Fascinating and good information.
Always.
Always. Please
Always.
continue. Roll on.
Moving on, you are never going to get anywhere if you don't learn to be interrupted.
You know, there's nobody that could possibly be except for the person that it is, and that's Chris Matthews.
Oh, on the mark.
Hardball.
That was scolding New Republic's Ryan Lizza for not following hardball etiquette.
Indeed, which is to allow for interruptions. All right, I'm sort of with the Matthews school of thought. I like interrupting people. But anyway,
Okay,
please
obviously.
continue. Yeah,
Moving on.
Right, go.
I used to have a belly, but not anymore. There's so many options for this one, right?
Is that, well, we're talking about, I'm sorry, my mind is wandering. It could be anybody.
It's not Huckabee.
Not Huckabee.
It's not Huckabee.
That would have been my first call. God, I could guess all day. I can't think of anybody. Who is that?
It is actually former Senator Alan Simpson.
Interesting. What happened to his belly?
They never
They never
concluded
explained
that.
Oh, that's something that you
Just
kind of
went
want.
back to the immigration topic.
Yeah, you want to follow up on that. Anyway, continue.
Okay, moving on. 33 years of me, and she's probably glad I'm gone for the weekend.
33 years of me, and she's probably glad I'm gone for the weekend. Bill Clinton?
No.
Ouch, right?
No, another presidential hopeful. It's Mike Huckabee, who we just mentioned, who was
Okay.
on Fox News Sunday this past weekend on his anniversary with his wife.
Oh, with his wife. Okay,
Yep.
Janet Huckabee. Good
Right.
to know.
Okay.
Lovely woman, friend of the show.
Moving on. They're not competing with Chris Matthews, Robert Reich, and Pat Buchanan.
Pat Buchanan. I saw that. So I actually know who said that. I know
Okay,
who
what
said
was he
that.
referring to? That's an extra
I
question.
can't recall. It's this kind of thing you hear out of the corner of your ear when you're working and listening to other people.
Well, actually, he was speaking in third person, obviously, about who illegal immigrants are not competing with for jobs.
Well, if he was speaking in third person, it was probably more likely to be Bob Dole talking about it himself. But anyway, continue.
Okay. Moving on, you know that hurts my feelings. More and more of these federal agencies are not returning our phone calls. It's recently been in the news. There's a New York Times editorial written about him.
Oh, Lou Dobbs.
On money.
Am I right? We
Yes.
should probably move to the end because
Yes.
it's probably running a little long.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right,
What do you
let's
got?
moving on. This was a question posed to a guest. Do you ever miss him? I mean, not ever miss him. How much do you miss him?
Well, you know, it's funny you end on that one because that was me. That was me being interviewed by Larry King about Chuck Todd.
Oh, man.
About former Hotline editor Chuck Todd.
Friend of the show.
Indeed, friend of the show. And the answer to that question
Is
was...
Larry King, but to Nancy Reagan.
Oh, but the answer to the question that I was asked on Larry King's show about Chuck Todd was quite a bit.
Oh, I missed that segment.
All right, that'll do it for that lovely segment, one of our favorites here on Hotline TV. But there's the 2-minute warning, conveniently enough. And Catherine Lear right here. Let's get it started, shall we? Moving right along. All right, so apparently former Congresswoman and frequent 2-minute warning guest Cynthia McKinney is thinking about seeking the Green Party's 2008 presidential nomination. How long do you think before she hits someone? And it's a two-part question. How long do you think before she hits someone in the face? And do you think this is just much ado about a washed-up politician?
Washed up? I don't know about you, but my check is already in the mail.
To McKinney, interesting.
Yes.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you were such a fan.
Female empowerment. All right, Senator John Kerry endorsed Lindsay Lohan for president this week, just a few hours before she became tabloid fodder again for a boozy binge that landed her in rehab. The Kerry curse lives on?
Yeah, I think this guy just should stop trying to be funny. Sometimes it just doesn't work. I know that very well myself, John Kerry. Sometimes it just doesn't work trying to be funny. All right, Congressman Virgil Goode shared a little with us this week, saying he's riled by restaurants in his district that display the Mexican flag. How can a guy named Good or Goode come off sounding so bad?
I don't know. Clearly, Good needs a good strong margarita.
All right.
All right. And finally today,
John, I'm
you're
going to read this one for some reason. And finally today, Catherine, just in case you were wondering, Jessica Alba thinks that former Congressman, Tennessee Senate candidate, DLC Chairman Harold Ford is hot, cute, and adorable. Those are quotes. I didn't realize she was such a political junkie.
Wait, is she the one who taped the RNC ad in Tennessee last fall?
Ah, somebody like that, yeah. Well, I'd answer that question, but we're out of time for today. Thank you all, thank you both, for joining us on Hotline TV.